Hey everyone, welcome to Core 90 for the week. We are so happy you guys are here. What an awesome day. And we have a really cool presentation put together today by our very own Jason Giles, going to be talking to us about what is it that top producers are consistently doing in their business, because we believe that success leaves clues. And so the truth of the matter is, who was it? Jim Rohn, I think, said that. And so the bottom line, though, is that if we can simply look at what successful people are doing consistently and we do the same things, we are going to dramatically improve our likelihood of achieving the same exact success, if not even better. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to everybody here. Happy Hanukkah, happy whatever you're celebrating. That's awesome. Love you guys and want everyone to have a really restful and recuperative holiday season. Why? So that you can hit 2024 running and have the greatest year of your entire career, right? We've got some good stuff happening that's actually predicting maybe a really cool 2024 for all of us. So I'm excited about that. Okay, so with no further ado, I'd like to bring to the stage Jason Giles, absolutely incredible team leader out of Oregon, awesome leader inside the community, and giving us some of his time today to walk us through some amazing things that are going to help us grow our business. Jason, how you doing, man?
Fantastic, Jeff. Thanks, man. I always appreciate the introduction, my friend.
Of course.
So I want to jump in. One of the things I wanted to ask you real quick, Jeff, because we talk about this a lot. We talk about per agent productivity. Now, what was the numbers on the per agent productivity within the community? I know we talked about this a lot. To me, it's pretty powerful.
Our per agent productivity is outperforming the brokerage by about 20%, and our brokerage is ranked #1 in the country. So we're doing pretty well.
That's phenomenal. So the reason why I brought that up is because of kind of what we're talking about today, right? You know, I firmly believe that showing up to these these core 90s is really a reminder of everything that we already know, right? But sometimes we forget, and we have to reset, we have to review, we have to, just kind of get that mindset back to what we need to do. So what I'm going over today is, top 10 things that top producers are doing in their business. Now, these are things that we've all done, and sometimes we do more than others, but it's 2024 is right around the corner. So it's like, let's refocus on what we have. Let's make it the best year ever. I get it. I get on social media quite often for business. And when I do, I see a lot of the same things on social media of, what can I do? How can I grow my business? How can I get a new lead? How can I, whatever it is, grow a team? What's the first thing I should do as a real estate agent? And really with me, what I've learned in my 8.5 years in real estate is I need to look at what other producers are doing in their business. And then I need to repeat that. I need to duplicate what they're doing. So I'm going to share my screen so we can get started here. I love feedback. I love comments. Jump in, help us all out. So let's see what we have and we'll get started. So review, research, repeat. 2024 will be the best year ever. I had a question yesterday from an agent. He said, what do you think 2024 is going to be like? I said, well, I believe that 2024 is going to be the best year, but ask me what 2025 is going to be like. So he asked me, and I said, I believe 2025 is going to be best year, because we all know what we need to do when we come into the office. We all know what we need to do when we start talking to clients, right? So we need to do what clues have been left for us to be successful. So review, research, and repeat. What I mean by that is I'm looking at top producers that are in our organization, even in other brokerages. They're everywhere. And I look at what they're doing and I think to myself, okay, how are they doing that, right? What can I do to duplicate that? So then I research what they're doing. And what I mean by research is if somebody says, go do open houses. Okay, great. What does that mean? No, let's do some research. What do you mean by go do open houses? How many signs should I put out? How many flyers should I do? Should I door knock? What's the core to doing that? And then whatever it is that they've been doing that's been successful, I repeat it. I don't try to change it. I don't try to throw something else in there. If what they've done has proven success, then I'm going to take what they've done and I'm going to repeat that for our business. So one of the things, let me see. One of the things top producers are doing, tech, digital marketing. Okay, so these are no certain order. It's not like this is #1 and number 10 is 10. You put in the order that's best for you. So when we talk about tech, digital marketing, we talk about our CRM, our social media, our NetSheet tools, our MLS. I mean, you see the list that we have here, right? Now, some people, they don't really like doing social media. Well, that's okay if you don't want to do a video, but what are we posting on there, right? And I really, truly believe that what we post for personal and business is a reflection of who we are. So we should be real mindful about what we're putting out there, right? What content are we doing? What is the perception of who we are? I did a post the other day, and I like to go to the gym, right? I go to the gym at least 20 minutes a week, right? So I love the gym. But I went to the gym and I posted on there because it was a 5 a.m. class. And I decided to share something. And what I shared was, I said this. I said, here's a secret. I don't like getting up at 4:30 in the morning. I don't like going to the gym at 5 a.m. and working out. I said, however, what I don't like even more is being unhealthy, out of shape, and tired. Everything has a choice. We have to decide what that is. Everything's got its difficulty. So, when we're on our social media, let's be mindful about that. Now, when we talk about tech and digital marketing, our CRM, and we could do a whole session just on CRM, but our CRM is our number one tool, is what I believe, for our business. We have to make sure that CRM is dialed in. If your CRM is not dialed in, don't bog yourself down with trying to get everything caught up. Make sure that the next person that goes in there, it's done correctly. And then the next person, it's done correctly. What I mean by that is name, email, phone number, campaign, hashtags, everything you could and should be doing with your digital marketing. Now, the reason why I put that under digital marketing is because those campaigns can do a lot of that work for us. So when we talk about having time, we have the tools to utilize that to where it saves us time. So I did a whole presentation on how much time we have in a week. We have 168 hours in a week. And I think to myself, when I start breaking that down, how much time am I wasting that I could be utilizing better, right? So net sheet tools. What I mean by net sheet tools is you have a lot of vendors, lenders, title companies that'll give you these tools that are free, easy to use, and you should have that on your phone ready to go. Anytime you're with a client, you should be able to use that, show them what their payments would be, show them what the down payment would be, etc. If you don't have that, reach out to your local title rep and see what they have. They're free tools from them. They want your business, so they give that to you. MLS. So the MLS, I don't particularly use the MLS to send out listings to our clients. I decide not to. I use my CRM because I can take my CRM with me. However, the MLS does have a lot of great marketing tools that you could use. So I would encourage you to get into your MLS and navigate through that. If we only know how to look up properties that are being sold and how to do, a CMA for a client, that's not enough. Let's dive in there. Let's look at hot sheets. Let's look at expireds. Let's really know that, because that's another really big tool that you could be using in your business. Expense sheets. That's a tool. There's tech out there for your expense sheets. And I know a lot of people use different things. That's something to me that you should have, and it should be updated at least weekly. I started using QuickBooks, and I'll tell you, after about a week and a half of not getting into it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is something I have to get into every day, 10 minutes a day, just to make sure that it's up to date. Your website. So website is to me, website's important, but let's not get caught up on the website, right? So what I mean by that, and I tell people this all the time, don't worry about your website being perfected before it goes live. Let's get it out there. You can perfect it as it goes, but you know what? You should have a website. You should have a website that you can direct people to, a website that people can go in and leave reviews. These things don't take a lot of time. And guess what? Once they're set up, all you got to do is manage it, right? You manage it once a week. You make sure that things are looking good and they're rocking and rolling, then you're good to go. This isn't something that takes 2 or 3 hours a day. EXP Enterprise. For those of us with EXP, this is phenomenal. This is a tech digital marketing tool that you could use for your business. They've got everything in there for you, including classes. It's phenomenal. It's hard to explain if you don't have it, but that's where you can go in and you can get everything you need. Within 10 minutes, I can have what I need for my open house and I'm good to go. So tech and digital marketing is something that a lot of producers are doing. And the reality is, in the time that we live in right now, that's where a lot of things are going. They're going online. They're going tech, so we should be a part of what that is. And guess what? If we don't know how to do it, let's get somebody that does know how, right? I'm a firm believer of surrounding yourself with people who know more than you do, so that way you guys can all grow. So tech, digital marketing, really important. That's something top producers are doing. Negotiate and communication. Okay. Communication is a big, big, big one to me. I don't know how many times I've met with lenders, vendors, clients, and they would always tell me, the last person I worked with, whatever it was, doesn't even have to be real estate, They just did not like the communication. Communication should be something that's time blocked for you, right? So what I mean by communication with time blocking is if you have people that you're looking for homes, if there's nothing on the market, they should know that they're going to hear from you every Monday and Friday with updates of anything that's going on. Even if the update is, hey, Jeff, nothing came on the market this weekend, but I just want to touch base with you. Was there something that you had seen that maybe I'd missed? I'm going to be available this Sunday, or, whatever it is, just communicate with them. Especially your clients that you're already under contract with, communicate with them. Let them know what's going on. Call them up and just ask if they have any questions, and then see how the week is going. A really big one right now is listings. If you have listings right now, I don't know what everybody else has seen. It's slowed down a little bit. That's okay. It's fine. They're going to sell. If you communicate right with your clients that are listing their home, they'll trust in you what we should be doing in the market. But if they don't hear from you for a couple of weeks or a week and a half or even a week, and you call them up and say, we should do a price reduction, their first thought's going to be, well, I haven't heard anything from you for a week. Why should I do that? But if they've heard from you on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, you're doing an open house, then Monday you call them up, say, listen, here's what's happened. This is what we should do. They're going to be more apt to say, okay, I trust you because you're communicating with me. Negotiations. I put in here, not just with our offers, which we could do a whole thing on offers and negotiations, but repairs. There should be, talking to your clients, getting them set up with at least 3 vendors, right? And let them know that these repairs can be negotiated. I mean, help these clients out. Credits. We talk about that with negotiating that for our clients. Sometimes right now, clients want the credit because they can use that towards their closing costs. They could use that to buy the rate down. So learning how to negotiate that. Vendors, to me, this is another really big one. I'll say that a lot. Say a really big one because honestly, this is all very important. Vendors, you should be negotiating with your vendors. We had 2 bids come in last week for a roof. One was $26,500 and one was $19,500. Okay, I called the one that was $26,500 and said, hey, please explain to me what's going on here. And they said, you know what, we'll match that price. So don't just take what we get at face value. And when you do that and you communicate that with your clients, they're going to know that you're really working for them. You really want to make sure that you're saving them. Transparency. This right here, I've seen this in 8.5 years. And I got to be honest, when I first started, I was scared to call a buyer or a seller when I had bad news. Man, I did not want to make that call. But I had to. So the best thing to do is to be transparent. Call them up and just say, hey, listen, Jeff, here's what happened. We found out we have foundation issues with the inspection report. We're going to get a couple vendors out there and we're going to see what it is. They're going to say how much. Listen, I don't know. I've seen it be 20 grand and I've seen it be 50 grand. But the more that you communicate with them and then you're transparent with them, it's easier for those conversations. I would love if anybody has something that they want to throw in on something that they've done or communication or even stories that they have. So please feel free to raise your hand. Jeff, watch out for that so we can get them in.
Hey, Jason. Yeah, actually, as you mentioned it, I'm thinking it's interesting because we have this whole concept of transparency, but beyond that, I know a couple of weeks ago, we had even Steve was talking about this idea of giving evidence of success in a letter or some type of a communication outward to your clients. I think even just when you're talking to people, the opportunity, for instance, for you guys to say, listen, we saved $7,000 for one of our clients by just price shopping this, right? We could have gone with the first bid and that's the easy button, but we're working hard to save money. If you need to save money on something that you're doing on your house, let us know. Now you're becoming the one-stop resource for all things real estate, renovation, house maintenance, repairs, etc. Anything having to do with home comes back to you. So that increases your face value in the marketplace. And I think that that's a really important point that you're making right now.
I appreciate that. And it's, when we look at this, it's what's best for our clients. But, what this really turns into is that client's going to remember it. And guess what? When they're talking to their friend who's looking at selling their home or buying a house, they're going to be like, hey, call Jason, call Jeff, call Amanda, call Joanne. They did this for me and it saved me $7 grand. Like they're going to be excited to share that story. Right. So, and that doesn't take us long. We call the vendor up, they come out, they do their bid. We call another vendor, they do their bid. And then we find out what's best. And here's the deal. We're here to educate our clients. We're not here to make the decisions for them. And we let them know what we have. We have them look at the information and they can ultimately make that choice. Now, of course, they're going to want to save money too. But guess what? You're the hero for spending 45 minutes on going over these bids and making calls. And that creates a long-term client. I mean, that's what this is about. To me, in real estate, if you sold 24 homes this year and you followed up with those clients like we should, using our CRM, using our marketing, you would never have to worry about getting another client again, because you will be getting referral after referral if it's done right from the beginning. So I appreciate you jumping in on that,
Totally,
Jeff.
man.
So
You bet.
right here, knowing the market. So this is
Hey,
right
Jason, we
now.
lost your screen share. I'm sorry. I think that's on my end.
Can you see it now?
Not yet. Try to share again.
Here we go. Okay, so knowing the market, this is, it's funny when we have things that are happening in our market right now, which to me, a little background on me. I was in the auto industry for about 10 years, and I got into the auto industry, maybe 6, 7 years, but I got into the auto industry summer of 2008. And I don't know if anybody remembers summer of 2008, but that's when, the market was crashing, foreclosures, interest rates. I mean, people weren't buying, they were losing their jobs. It was a tough, tough time. Well, I didn't really pay attention to that. I just said, okay, I still have a job to do. This is what I have to do when I come in, and that's what I'm going to do. And it ended up being successful for me. But it wasn't that I didn't know what was going on. I just didn't let that affect what needed to be done every day. So right now, we're having a shift in the market. It's okay. It's all right. Interest rates are up. Prices are coming down a little bit. There's nothing to be worried about, because here's how I look at it. We are in an industry where people need a roof over their head. Right now, what's unfortunate about that is that the rents that we're having, at least in our area, they're not very friendly. So people are looking at saying, I can rent for 2,000 a month, or I can own a home for 2,500. What should I do? And that's an easier conversation because they're becoming an owner of something. So knowing your market, I mean, update yourself on what's going on. But I'm going to really, really, really encourage everybody to not get bogged down. If you're reading something that's negative, understand it, look at it, see what's going on, and then move on to something else, right? Just that way, if somebody does ask you a question about what may be going on in the market that's in a negative content, explain it to them a little bit and then move that into a positive, but know what's going on, okay? And if you don't know, the best thing to say is, hey, you know what? I don't know, but I'll find out. So know what's going on in your market, know the days on the market, know your local builders, get in contact with your local builders, find out what they're doing, right? That's the local builders are somewhat of an indication of what's happened with the market. If you see them holding off on building, okay, something's going on. If you still see them buying property, then that's an indication that they've done their numbers, they've got their people involved, and they still feel like it's going to be a strong market. So talk to your local builders, see what they're doing, see what's going on. And that's also good for you too, for your future clients, right? So you know what's going to be coming up. CMAs. I encourage us to do CMAs, once or twice every couple months, just on a property, even if we're not doing that many listings, just so you stay fresh on your CMAs, right? Just pick one and do it. CMAs to me, I don't just look in the parameters that I've been taught since day one. I open this up, and I open it up because I come to the core 90. If I'm doing a CMA for somebody, I will look at what's sold in their local neighborhood within a couple of streets in the last year and a half or 2 years. Because if they've been there in that time, chances are they know what's going on. So when you're presenting the CMA, bring the CMA that you would, but then also bring what's going on as part of that CMA for their local neighborhood. People will respect that. They'll say, well, I know Joe down the street sold his house for 400,000. Why should I price mine at 405? Because mine's bigger and newer or whatever it is. Well, you're going to know that because you did that research, right? To me, that's part of the CMA to present to your sellers. CMAs right now should also be done, my opinion, for your buyers. Right now, our buyers are a little bit scared of what's going on. They're a little bit scared, or they're hesitant on that purchase because of what the dollar amount's going to be. And the more information we can give them on them giving a fair price, and it's still within what's going on in the market, it's easier for them to make a decision. So a CMA for your clients is key. Do that for your buyers on every single buyer. Market trends, look at what's going on with your market trends. We can go into this all day. Knowing your market, educating yourself on your market it's phenomenal. It sets you aside from a lot of other agents. Let's not be that agent that's just trying to get that next piece of business, right? Let's be very knowledgeable on what's going on out there. So I'm going to move on to time management. Once again, these are in no specific order, but I probably should have put this as number one, right? Time management. Calendar, reminders, review daily, adjust, stick to time blocks, delegate tasks. This is everything I had to learn, and I'm still learning and readjusting. I'm redoing my calendar for 2024 because I'm realizing that there's things that just didn't need to be in there. 168 hours in a week. I mean, we have the time. So, when I first started my time management and my calendar, I was putting everything in there, waking up at 4:30, putting my shoes on at 4:46, starting the car at 4:49, whatever it was. And I realized, okay, I don't need to do that. I need to start small and put the things in there that I know are important for me to do. I put in there my time block for my cold calling, for my lead generation, time block for my follow-up. I'll put in my calendar now if I'm unavailable for those that I share my calendar with, so they know that that's a time where I can't be there or something's going on. Usually if I put unavailable, it's because I'm with my kids, So time management, this is something I've seen a lot of top producers doing. So that, when we take a step back and we're looking at some of these people that we look up to, they're top producers, and like, man, they're always on vacation, or they're always doing this, they're always doing that, right? It's like, how do they find time to do that? I'll guarantee you that they probably put more into their business than they do on those vacations, but the time that they're putting into their business is fruitful. They are not veering off of what they do for their time block, for their business, because when they're gone, they need to make sure that it's running. Reminders. The reason why I put that in there is because every night we should be looking at our calendar and reminding ourselves of what the next day, what's going on, review it daily, see what we have. Adjust it as you need to. I personally used to go to every single one of my signings. Now I realize that that's not something I need to do. I'm just available by phone, right? I'm going to be sitting there, and it's just not something that I feel we need to be doing, with that. So we could be using that time for other things. I also don't go to inspections unless I absolutely have to. Now, here's the secret. I used to do that up until about a year ago. And now I don't do that anymore because I don't need to be at the inspection. I'm not the one who's inspecting the house. Now, what I do is I meet the client 30 minutes before it's going to be done because I feel that that's something we should do. But I don't need to be there for 2.5 hours talking to the guy about how he plugged into the plugs, right? Does it have an anti-tip device behind the stove? So, time management is key. These things that we feel that we may have to do really are not that important. What's important is the communication and making sure our clients are protected. And we still do that when we show up a half hour before the inspection's over. Stick to your time block, man. That's just, it sounds like it's so tough, but I'll tell you what, if you want more time freedom, if you want more time with your family, if you want more time to read, I don't care what you do, stick to your time block. It's been really nice the last 6 months, not answering my phone after 7 o'clock. If something comes in, I can deal with it tomorrow. It does not need to be taken care of right then. Because guess what? That's my time at home. That's my time with my family, with my kids. But that's my time watching Coco Melon for the 100 millionth time with my daughter, right? So that's just what I do. Delegate tasks. This is something that it was really, really hard for me, but I realized top producers are doing this. We have to delegate these tasks off that are not money-making activities, but more important, they're not the activities that are really taking care of our clients, okay? One of those is getting a transaction coordinator. I fought that for so long. And last night I got an email at 8 o'clock. I happened to look at my phone. My transaction coordinator was taking care of the home warranty for our client because they're closing today, right? It got missed and they seen it and they took care of it. Man, I was like, good. One less thing I have to do tomorrow. Delegate that off. People say, well, Jason, that costs $300. It costs $400. It costs $500. Actually, it does. What it costs is you $9,000, $10,000, $11,000 because you are spending your time uploading documents and sending out for signatures when you could have been communicating with clients. You could have been lead generating. You could have been doing something that is a money-making activity for your business. I would, even if I didn't make money on it, it was just the $350. I would rather take that time to do something that I enjoy doing. Whether it be with my kids or it be reading or whatever it is that I want to do, delegate that off. It's something I learned coming to these core 90s. So I'm going to share a lot that we've learned in the core 90s. If it's something that you can get done within 2 minutes or less, do it right then. Get it done, get it out of the way. Just take care of it. Don't put that off till later. And then now you've got 5 things that could have taken 2 minutes each that now you're trying to scramble around and get done. So time management, it's a time block. I don't care if you have a calendar that's hanging up on your refrigerator. If that's what you use, then use it and use it every day. Glenn Sanford, he has a podcast, and he said he's got four or five different calendars that he uses for his business. Now, to me, that's powerful. If we have somebody who is the CEO who owns this brokerage that we're in, EXP, if he's time blocking, man, so should I, right? So time blocking is a huge one. Time management's huge. I'm gonna move on here to client relationships. We kind of already talked about this. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Jason. Yeah, one of the things that's interesting is I also just want to give a easy plug for this because it costs $0 to integrate. But if you're using like one of the major calendar services, I think the most used calendar in the world is Google, right? The Google Calendar. But what's interesting is you can get a Calendly, which we don't have any affiliation with those guys, but just go to calendly.com and grab yourself a free account. What's neat is you can set up an opportunity for your clients or people to meet with you. And if you haven't been doing this, I'm using this with a number of folks right now who are literally using this for listing appointments and buyer appointments, and it is saving them a colossal amount of time because the back and forth just scheduling an appointment, sometimes that takes, it's like ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, ping. It's like 6 back and forths. And then you lose the person's attention or interest. And now they get back to you a week later. It's like, geez, Louise, it's so much easier. Even if you're the one scheduling it, use Calendly. And now that person's getting communicated to, they're getting reminded of your appointment. Like this saves a ton of time. So just go over there. Again, it's free if you're just doing one event type. Or I think it's like $15 a month if you want like unlimited events and text message abilities and all this stuff.
When you say that, Jeff, it reminds me something I heard from a client a while back and I never wanted to hear again. And Calendly, I just got my own Calendly set up, and guess what? It took me about 10 minutes. I'm no tech genius. It was pretty easy to get it done, and I love it. We're integrating it. It makes it simple. Clients can go in there. They can schedule a time. Also, when we work with different agents, it's phenomenal. I heard a client say to me one time, they're like, "Hey, Jason, I know you're really busy, but I was wondering if you could do this." I didn't take that as a compliment, right? Because what that meant is that they felt I was too busy to take care of what they needed. And guess what? If I was time management, if I was time blocking, they wouldn't have thought that. Every client needs to feel like they're the only client working. It's not okay for us to be 5 minutes late. If we're 5 minutes late to an appointment, we've kind of set the tone that's not that important to us. So that calendar is huge. Get there 15 minutes early and sit in your car for 10 minutes if you have to and read a book. I don't care. Get on social media, but just be on time with that. I mean, that's huge. And that kind of goes right here to where I'm jumping into with client relationships. Schedule your follow-up. We've kind of already talked about this, but this, once again, with these core 90s or even anything you've done, I mean, the KW has their bold. Remax, I'm sure, has, they all have something. And what this really is a reminder of what we can be doing. And we kind of reflect and say, okay, what do we want to always be, conscious of, and what are we doing in our business? So client relationships, schedule your follow-up. We've already talked about that. It doesn't matter if you have anything that's an update, but if you're communicating with them, then they know. And guess what? When you're calling and you're communicating with these clients, there's no problem with you saying, "Hey, listen, Jeff, I know we're in the middle of this transaction. We're getting ready to close in a couple of weeks. Hey, man, I was wondering, do you know anybody who's looking at buying, selling, or investing in real estate that could use my help?" Guess what? We can't really ask that if we haven't been communicating with them, right? We all have those clients. I have those clients that I'm like, man, I dropped the ball on that. Never want to do that again, right? So that also sets us up to be able to ask them for that. And guess what? When you're taking care of them, they're going to want to say that to you. And guess what? When they're in the middle of buying a house, all of their friends know. And now their friends are curious about what's going on, and they may want to buy a house. They may want to sell their house, right? So schedule your follow-up. Campaign reminders. We talked about this with the tech and the marketing. Set those people up. If your CRM is no good right now, make sure everybody going in is going to be dialed in with their campaign reminders. If they've sold the house, they should be getting market updates. If they've bought a house, they should be getting market updates. Whatever it is that they're doing, they should be getting market updates. Your campaign reminders also go into your sphere of influence. I've seen a lot lately on social media about people working their sphere of influence. A lot of clients, a lot of agents, out there are saying, well, I don't want to call somebody I haven't talked to in 10 years, in 5 years. Guess what? I've been doing that lately, and I've rebuilt some relationships, and it's almost like we didn't skip a beat. and now we talk once or twice a week, so call them up, put them on a campaign reminder so you don't forget, and that relationship doesn't go out 10 years again before you call them. So post-closing communication, this we've already kind of touched on this, but your client should know every step of the way what's going on. Let's not rely on our vendors. Let's not rely on the lender or anybody else involved, the title company, to make sure that they're communicating over with that. Let's make sure if they did communicate that we're still getting on the phone and saying, hey, Jeff, did you receive that email from title? This is where we're at. Hey, Jeff, did you receive that email from the lender? We're here. Going to communication and client relationships, here's something I say to everybody who's buying a house. Listen, when the lender talks to you, they're going to ask you for a lot of documents. It's what they do with everybody. And guess what? It's redundant. They're going to ask you again. So just be mindful of that. I've had a lot of clients really step back and be like, okay, thank you, because they did call me again and they did ask for something that I'd already given them. But now I know from you, Jason, from communicating with me, that they were going to do that. So it's not a big surprise to them. So make sure you're the one that, even if they're reminded, that you still call them up and you still let them know, make sure that they got it. Not everybody checks their email. Trust me. Vendor resources. So, our clients, once they've purchased their home or they've sold their home, studies show that 70% of the agents that help them, guess what? I learned that on Core 90. Okay. 70% of the agents that help them do not communicate back with them. All right. We don't want to be that 70%. We are that 30%. So when I say vendor resources, I mean, have a list of vendors that that you trust, that you would use for your own home, and get them that vendor list. Hey, here's somebody for your gutter cleaning. Here's somebody for your HVAC service. Here's a carpet cleaning company. Here's a contractor. I mean, get that over to them. And make sure that it's somebody that you've met with. Don't just randomly pick a vendor out of nowhere and say, hey, you should use this. I like using local, smaller companies. They seem to really take care of the clients, and I've had great feedback. And guess what? When you're out there and you're meeting with these vendors and you're making sure they can do the right job, and there's somebody you want to help your client's going to remember that. And we could go back to, hey, so-and-so, Randy with Expert Heating just called me and said that you guys just had it serviced. Want to make sure you're happy with everything. Want to see what's going on. Talk to your vendors and say, hey, please let me know if you can, if you've done some service for our clients. And guess what? When I'm on that conversation, seeing how that went, I'm going to say, hey, fantastic, Jeff. I know you've been in the house 6 months. How's everything going? Cool. I know we talked a few months back. Hey, listen, right now, the holidays are coming up and a lot of people are looking at selling their home after the new year. Do you know anybody who's looking at buying that might want to look at some homes? I'm going to ask for referral business again. But I can't ask him that if I haven't communicated with him and I haven't taken care of him and I haven't given him vendors and I haven't, made sure that he knew what was going on through the process. I can't ask him that. And guess what? We're losing out on business. Okay. No acronyms. So this, to me, I don't say, hey, you're MLS. Oh, hey, go talk to OAR. Hey, go do this. Because sometimes I've learned that people will call me back later and say, hey, what did you mean by this? So when I say this to a seller, we're going to market your home in the MLS, which is the multi-listing service that all the agents use. And now they know what it is. I've said the acronym and I've explained what it was, right? But don't just say the acronym and then not explain what's going on, because not everybody knows what we do. This is something we do every day. And then we kind of just get lost in our own language, right? To them, they didn't understand a word we said. CRM, we go over that. I mean, I'll probably say it 10 more times before we're done here. That is the key to all of this. If you want to have great client relationships, and your client is not just somebody that you have bought or sold or has done real estate with you, your client is your lender. Your client is your vendors. Yes, they say that we're their client, but you know what? Let's treat them like they're our client, because we want them to pick that phone up when we have a buyer. We want them to pick that phone up when one of our buyers or sellers needs service done in their home. We want them to answer the phone and say, hey, Joanne, how you doing? Hey, Jeff, how you doing? We want them to know who it is that's calling, and we want them to pick up because we've built great relationships with them. Know everything. We can't, but that's okay. Let's strive to know everything that's going on, strive to know where we're at with everything. If we don't know, let's delegate that off to somebody to find out so that we can help that client. So anything you want to throw, anybody want to throw anything else on client relationships, even a story of something that you've done that you thought was like, man, that was amazing. I'd love to hear about it.
Hey, Jason, I can identify with that totally because, because of the fact I don't really work from CRM typically. I hate reaching out to clients after a couple of years as well. And, and sometimes a couple of years is really recent for me. So, but it was random. I was going through some paperwork here recently, and I saw an old sheet and in front of me right here now. And I sent a text to this gal and wished her a happy Thanksgiving. Um, and so she messaged back and said, hey, Joe, great hearing from you. And then her and her husband had just split up. She said, I might need to do something after the first of the year. And then unfortunately, she called me yesterday. Tragedy happened in their house, and she needs to sell now. So now I'll be going out there and doing a listing appointment today. But one thing that she said. So one, I mean, I reintroduced myself back to her. Two, I found out yesterday that she'd actually spoke to a different real estate agent last year while thinking about selling rather than me, which made a lot of sense considering one, she hadn't heard from me. Two, based on Facebook posts, she thought I lived abroad. Um, so sometimes you have to remind people, it's like, hey, I'm still in the game. To your point where somebody said, are you too busy? I mean, I get people that say, do you still sell real estate? And I'm like, seriously, I'm really good at this, right? It's pathetic. So, for me, this is one that's, now it's going to be a, $625,000 listing that was going to go to somebody else had I not made that warm reach out at Thanksgiving time. So for people that don't like to reach out, find a reason. I don't do it often enough, but most years, I should say more than half of the years, I send out Christmas cards, and they're handwritten Christmas cards. So it's not a company card or anything else like that. I handwrite Joe Yates, eXp Realty in the corner. I handwrite their address. I open it up. I write their name. I usually have to look them up to find out who they are, see if they still own the home. They probably sold it with some other realtor. But once I've consolidated all that down and I write, wishing you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, hope I'm always here if you need me, Joe Yates, eXp Realty. And if I know they really don't know who the hell I am, then I include my phone number or a card. But anyway, I'd say that if you hate reaching out to people after a certain amount of time, find a reason to make that warm touch. I don't care if you send a Christmas card. Now I have a reason to send a text. Look, a lot of these people have reached out and texted me back just saying, hey, thank you so much, for the Christmas card. But if nothing else, now I've re-engaged them with a warm touch that's not just, freaking, February 7th, just saying, hey, it's just thinking about you. No, you weren't. So send that out, re-engage. And then once you've re-engaged, start going from there. And for me, a lot of this has to do with the call we did with Steve Thomas, where he does those calls. And I needed to go, okay, how am I going to warm touch everybody so that I can re-engage and start talking to them again and me feel comfortable about it rather than that awkward, hey, you haven't heard from me in 3 years. Yes, I still sell real estate. I forgive you for having listed the property 6 months ago that I just saw on MLS. That's a good way. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. And, it does make money. I almost always get at least one deal, if not two, from the $300 I spent on, postage and cards, or $200 I spent on postage and cards. And it ends up converting to $10,000 or $20,000. Who wouldn't, who wouldn't do that, right? So anyway, it's just an idea for people.
So I'm going to ask you this real quick, Joe. When you called up and you hadn't talked to her in 2 years, did she say, why the heck are you calling me? Or was she open to
again, I started with a warm text.
Okay.
I wish that I sent a happy Thanksgiving text.
Okay.
But remember, first of all, I don't call anybody. I'm scared to death. I'm a world's worst salesman. So, I start off everything with a text. But I sell a lot of stuff, right? But I'm not a ringing. Now that I've had some warm reintroductions, hey, I'm Joe Yates. By the way, here's a Christmas card. Have a nice day. Remember I sold you a house 5 years ago. Now I can actually shoot a phone call to these people. And that's the new game plan. Now I'm getting into, everybody needs to go back and watch the Steve Thomas video and listen to what Jason's saying right now, because now I want to have those warm conversations and find out what's going on in their lives and stuff like that. And I'll know them more than I ever did, because first of all, I don't learn about a client when I'm selling them a house. I'm there on a mission. They're on a mission. They're not trying to make a best friend. They're trying to buy a house. I'm not trying to make a best friend. I'm trying to sell a house. I'm trying to help them get into a house. We do that. We accomplish it. I shake hands. We may or may not talk again, unfortunately. So now I'm changing the way I do business. You can teach an old dog new tricks. You can teach a really old dog new tricks. So, I'm jumping around and chasing the ball now, and I'm going to start doing my business differently moving forward.
And what I love about what you said is that, calling somebody February 7th and that, you started with a warm text. And this is what's great about these is that it doesn't have to be just what that one person's doing. This is why we do these core 90s. So for those of us who don't like to do that cold reach out after 2, 3, 1 year, 6 months, send a text like Joe's doing, send a card, re-engage with them at some level. And then when you make that call, it's a little bit easier to talk to them, with what a lot of people do, like with what Joe's doing with sending out the cards, that's phenomenal, right? We should all be doing that. That would be in our CRM too, to be able to follow up that it's time to send those cards out. But whatever we're going to implement, we've got to make sure that we can consistently do it, right? We can't expect to send cards out one time and not do it again for 2 years and then call somebody up and say, hey, did you get that card back in 1997 I sent to you, right? We've got to be consistent with it. So, and I love it because, Joe is someone that I look up to. He's a mentor of mine, right? He's done very well and he brings a lot of value to here. So it's nice to be able to come on here and share some things that people implement and it helps them with their business. So I really appreciate you sharing that, Joe. That's awesome. I'm going to reshare my screen here. Okay. So client relationships. It's huge. It's important. Back to what Joe's saying and talking about this is a time of year you could send out the text saying, hey, I just want to, I want to reach out to you. Happy holidays. I hope everything's going well. Don't be surprised if you hear from me, sometime beginning of next year. Now you've set that up for them. Easter's coming. Whatever it is that your clients may celebrate. You could do that. Right now, you could send a text out saying, hey, I'm starting to send reminders out to everybody. I want to make sure I reached out to you. It's getting really cold. Do you have the protectors for all your faucets outside? You can send them something, right? And then they'll re-engage with you. And I would almost guarantee 90% of these calls, they're going to be nice, friendly calls once you've had some kind of engagement. Much better than having to make a call to somebody that you've never done business with as a cold lead to try to work with them, right? And, understanding what these calls and these relationships are about, you do want to build relationships with them. They do want to be somebody that when you see them at the grocery store, you're not turning away because it was a bad transaction, right? These are people, when you're building these relationships, are for your long-term business. They're going to want to refer it out to you. They're going to want, they're going to want you to work with their client. So I love that. Start off with something that you're comfortable with, a text, a Facebook message, whatever it is, and then set them up that, hey man, I'd love to give you a call sometime beginning next year. Most of them are going to say, absolutely, I'd love to hear from you. Going back to my friend that I hadn't talked to in 12 years, that led me to talk to 2 other friends that I hadn't talked to in 15 or 20 years. When we got on the phone, I'm telling you, I haven't laughed that hard in a long time because we started talking about things that we did when we were teenagers, right? Because that's how long it's been since we talked to them. And then, yeah, of course, I let them know. I'm like, hey, listen, because we're friends. I let them know. I said, hey, I'm in real estate. You've seen my post. You see what I'm doing. Listen, I can help anywhere. So if you need anything and you trust me, give me a call. That wasn't really the purpose to reconnect with them. But guess what? This is what we do. This is how we provide for our family, our future. This is what we want to do. There's nothing wrong with letting people know what you have going on. One of those friends, I talk to him, like I said, about twice a week now. Sometimes it's just a quick 10-minute call to see how your day is going. Unfortunately, he's going through some hard times right now. He's doing great financially and everything else, but some other hard times. So I'm glad I reached out to him because I've been someone who's kind of just helped build him up. So reach out to those clients, reach out to your friends. What's up, Jeff?
One of the things that you're saying that I love too is this shouldn't be outsourced. Like earlier, we kind of talked about outsourcing with paperwork, et cetera. By the way, if you're new to real estate, don't start there. Do your own paperwork for a while. You got to learn. You have to master what you're going to measure, which means anything you're going to manage, you need to be able to measure, which means you have to master it first. So you need to master your paperwork. Then you can manage somebody who's mastering your paperwork. But if you haven't done it, you don't need to be doing that. I did that wrong, just so everyone knows. But I will also mention this. You shouldn't, I'm sure that you can, but you shouldn't outsource relationship building, right? kind of going back to what Joe was talking about, this great call with Steve, which we posted the link to in the chat. If anybody wants to watch, that was a great call. But also the reality is you need to be building those relationships. And sometimes we try to outsource everything in our business. Like if I could outsource it all and just make money, then I'd be amazing. That's not exactly how this works. And by the way, if people want to have a relationship with you, it's because they want to have a relationship with you, right? That's not transactional, it's relational. And you have to build that. Like if I'm trying to build a relationship with Jason or Joe or Amanda or whomever, then I would make the phone call and I'd say, hey dude, what's going on? Like, let's hang out. It's my opportunity to really build that relationship. So don't set that off for an admin or a third party or a VA or anything like that, unless it's something simple like inviting to a party. But even then, if I'm being honest with you, I think that call should come from you. Because quite frankly, I've had people say, I've got 250 past clients. That's too many. I'm like, is it? I don't know what else you're doing, but like, I would make those phone calls, man. Like that's your bread and butter. And remember, what does it cost to get a lead as a referral from a past client? And the answer is zero. That's a lot less than most of the lead aggregators are charging these days. So I'd go for that 0% fee over, spending all your time calling back Zillow leads or whatever garbage you're doing on the side, right?
So, I'm glad that you brought that up because that's one of the things that I am glad I did. I'm glad that I didn't have a TC when I started because now I know what to expect when I have that, right? And I'm not going to have our VA because, fortunately we have a VA right now. And I love it. We're utilizing in a lot of ways, but I will not have my VA call a past client to see how they're doing, right? I mean, that right there, if I got a call from a third party source that was wanting to check on me, yeah, that'd be great. But man, I'd love to hear from you. And this really goes to to me, it's keeping your client relationships and it's also lead generating kind of tied in one because we're in real estate and every time there's something going on in the market and we got on the phone with a past client, a friend, and they know you're in real estate, they usually ask, hey man, what's going on? The conversation will organically grow to that, but do it with the right intentions. That's what, when Joe, you interviewed with Steve, I mean, you gotta be sincere when you're calling up. If we're calling up just to try to get that business right, then it's going to show. That's not good. Let's call them up and let's be sincere. Hey, I wanted to let you know what was going on with winter. Do you have what you need? Hey, this is what's coming up. We're doing this event. It'd be nice to see you. You take them to coffee. There's a time and place to ask for referrals, and that's not every time you call them, right? But if you've called them 2, 3, or 4 times, and on the 5th one, you call up and said, hey, I didn't even mention this before, but do you know anybody who wants to buy or sell? I mean, it'll all lead back to your business, but make sure you're doing it with the right intentions. Make sure that you're actually wanting to build those relationships. There's people who are highly successful just off of taking care of their clients. So that's a big one. Let me see here. Boom. Okay, marketing and branding. This right here, there's a lot of different things you can do with marketing and branding, but here's what I found that was really funny, and then I had to start looking at it. I would see agents go from one brokerage to the next, maybe to another one. That's okay. They're finding their right home. Do what you've got to do. But I'll look at their profile that they have online. I'll Google their name, and it'll say that they're still with the brokerage 3 brokerages ago, right? Like, make sure that you are up to date on your marketing and your branding with what you're doing. Said it before, CRM. I mean, make sure that your CRM has the right information there. Make sure you have a signature on that CRM when it's going out. On your CRM, you could put your Calendly link too. I mean, that's huge. Social media, talked about it already, but make sure that what you're posting on there, not that we want to hide who we are. I mean, this is who I am. You guys will see a lot of stuff on my social media about my kids, about what I do, about working out, whatever it is. And that's who I am. But there's certain things that I'm like, oh, I post this. I was like, no, that's not something everybody needs to know. That's for me. You know what I mean? So just be mindful about how you're marketing yourself out there. Events. Go to events. I really feel like a lot of real estate agents, that are in our industry, they feel like these are things that aren't very fruitful for us. Well, they are fruitful. When you go to these events, even if they have to do with real estate, when you're going there and you're having great conversations with other agents, whether they're with this brokerage or with another brokerage, guess what? When you have a listing and they've got a chance to meet with you, they feel comfortable to talk to you. If you have a buyer and you've met them at different events and you're marketing yourself, you're branding who you are in your area, they feel confident with the offer that you're writing to them because they've seen you at these different events. Newsletters, because that's something you delegate, right? This is a delegating task. You could delegate that to a VA, an assistant. You can have that in your CRM, but send out newsletters. Here's the thing, 168 hours in 1 week. We have the time. And once you set these up, All you have to do is just review it periodically and make sure that the right content's going out. This isn't something that has to be done every day of the week. Google search, I already talked about that. It's funny when I look up agents and it's a different brokerage that they're with. And I've even called someone because they're friends of mine. I said, hey, check it out. Delete your voicemails because it's full. Update your voicemail because it still says you're on vacation from back in June. And also on your website, this is what you have. And they laugh with me. They're like, hey, man, thank you. Right? We should be mindful of what we're putting out there. That also goes to our website. Make sure that that's updated. There's a lot we can do with marketing and branding and getting yourself out there. But really, some big ones is your social media and getting yourself out there to these different events, getting yourself out there to be introducing yourself to other agents in the area. Go to events that are even going on with different charities. Get to know what's going on in your area. I got invited to a charity a couple months ago. I had no idea that we had this in our area, and I'm pretty pumped and excited about it. It has to do with vets and what they do for them. And it's something that I want to get involved in. I didn't used to go to these things, but now I make it a priority to try to get to something to where I can get out there in the neighborhood. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to get business from this, but I'm getting to know people. I can learn something from what's going on at these events. I can learn something from other agents that can help me in my business, right? I mean, I love going to these things and I run into someone who's a top producer, somebody I look up to. There's a lot of people in my area that I look up to, and I get a chance to talk a little business with them, and I can learn something to implement, or I can learn what they've done for the last 20 years that's been successful. Let's not change it. I mean, that's kind of what this whole thing is about for me, is not changing what's already been successful, right? Review it, research it, repeat. Go ahead.
I love this. And one thing I wanted to pepper in here, which is really interesting, is that, at these charity events, you're hanging out with people who have been pre-vetted. There's a reason that charities are inviting a certain roster of individuals to those events, and it's because they have the financial capacity to give to that charity. And I just want to mention this because there's like 5 ways that we cover regularly in here, ways to increase your net income in real estate. One of them is to increase your price point, right? We all talk about units. I'm going to sell 10 more homes next year. It's like, well, that's 10 more sets of paperwork. What about just doubling your price point? You just doubled your income. You can do the same amount of paper. So what's nice is when you're at a charity event, I recommend these strongly. First off, it's a great way to give back to the community, stay connected and be involved. Create a tax deduction for yourself. That's awesome. If you want to, participate in an auction while you're there and buy a trip to Maui or whatever's on auction. But while you're there, network and meet people and look for at least 1 or 2 connections of someone that you really actually you feel like, hey, you're cool. I'm cool. Let's hang out. You're a good person. I'm a good person. Like, we connected. You're looking for real relationships, not fakey ones. This is a big thing that I think sometimes people do wrong at these events. Is they go there and they're trying to like business card collect, and it's like fishing. That's it. That's transactional. Be relational. If I'm there and I meet someone and we actually connect and I feel like there's a kind of a kindred spirit type of a thing going on, then this is somebody that I'm going to go to lunch with next week and just hang out. Not to try to create business, but just be aware, if you do this enough, business will come to you because you're creating real relationships in your community and you're now also a person who gives back. This is a great way. I just wanted to pepper this in because we've done this a lot. I absolutely love being involved with local charity events.
Yeah, when you're doing all things with the right intentions, intentions, I don't really like using the word, but when you're doing it with a real heart, it works out the way it's supposed to, right? I mean, people they're gonna know you, they're gonna love you, they're gonna want to talk to you. Joanne, you got your hand up. I always love to hear from you.
Thank you. Okay, so on that, the G team, this is something that we do. We don't do a lot of consistent stuff, but one of the things that we do is we sponsor tables at these events, several charities that we really believe in, and we'll buy a table for say $500 or whatever, but they usually seat 8 to 10 people. So we will invite 1 or 2 other couples that we know have the wherewithal to donate to that particular charity and have a heart for that charity, so that we're bringing value. Not only are we coming and giving our sponsorship of the table, but then we of course are going to buy something or give when we're there, and then these people do. So the point is, can you turn that down? Thanks. The point is that we're increasing the benefit to the charity, but also people will see us, that we brought people that we are supporting. I mean, I'm always noticing the consistent personalities and people that come to these things that are generous and are giving. And so we're just like, even if you just meet their eye across the room, you're making note of who's there, they're making note of you. And then maybe when they hear of somebody that's buying or selling, that you're going to come to mind, that kind of thing. And there was one other thing I was going to say about that, but I can't remember. So that's the basic gist of it, is that, I was going to say, and a couple of times we couldn't attend. It was on a night where we had another event or something. So we literally either let the charity invite whoever they want to fill our table, or we invite people to go fill our table. So either way, even if you're not available to go, you can still participate in something that you believe in and have your name on the table and on the bullet, on the, the program or whatever. So that's something that we don't do a lot, but that really resonated with me when you mentioned it, because that's something that we do. And I think it's really paid off for us over the years.
That's phenomenal. And, you say there's a lot of things that you do, not a lot real consistent, but these charities is what you do. So you found something that you enjoy doing that gives back, and people want to work with somebody they know, like, and trust. And when they see you, I mean, I've said it already, but I'm a firm believer, you got to surround yourself with the right people. And when you walk into these events, you see people who are very like-minded, who want to give back, who want to know what's going on. And it's easy to want to do business with those people. I mean, there's times when we go and we may meet somebody that can be a vendor for us, and next thing you know, we're doing business with them. So it's not just agents that are there and then, we're going to pick up business. We're doing it with the right intentions. We're doing it because it's something we care about. And that correlates with people wanting to work with you because they know, like, and trust you. They've seen you at these events and they say, this is somebody I want to have sit at my table. That's really big to me. I invite the certain few people to eat at my table, and that's phenomenal. I love it. Thanks for sharing, Joanne. I'm gonna share this too, because Joanne brought this up on a few Core 90s back. I really believe that you are always marketing yourself. So, I do this. I know Joanne does this. When you're out somewhere and someone, you strike up a conversation, because I think a lot of people here know I love to talk. So that's what I do everywhere I go. And I'm in the grocery store and I'm talking to the guy in front of me because we're waiting in line. And I always say, oh, what are you up to today? Something. Then he'll ask me, well, what are you up to? I'm like, well, I'm here getting stuff for an open house because we have a house that's listed over in North Albany, whatever it is. And, oh, you do real estate? So we're always marketing ourselves, right? Everybody, I get too much coffee. I'll tell you that. But when I go through and I get the coffee, they always say, oh, what do you got going on in real estate today? Right? Because they know that that's what I do. I've marketed myself as being a real estate agent. So move on here. I know we've only got 28 minutes left, so I want to make sure I get through this, because I've saved one for last. That's probably the most important to me. So hopefully we get there. Networking kind of correlates with a lot of stuff that we've just talked about. Okay. Networking in all your different events, networking at your CE classes. I would say go to the CE classes in person if you can. Network. It's not just about networking for clients, but when other agents know who you are, and I've already said this, we're just repeating what's already been said. When they know who you are, it's easier for them to want to work with you. So get yourself out there, go to some in-class or in-person CE credits. We all need them, so let's go out there and let's make it a win-win. Get the CE and then start talking with other agents who are out there, right? Annual events, we kind of talked about that, right? Vendors, network, we've talked about vendors, but network, if your vendors have something that's going on that they're doing a charity for, that they're doing an event for, and they invite you to go to it, take some time. And even if you can't show up for the whole thing, say, hey, I'd love to show up. I'm only free for this amount of time, but I'd love to show up and support what you're doing, and show up to that, right? This goes back to taking care of the clients. When the vendors see you involved with what's going on, they are working with somebody that's very like-minded. So they're going to want to answer your call to take care of those clients, right? A lot of this goes back to taking care of those clients. Post-closing coffee with agents. I talk to a lot of agents about EXP. I love where we're at. I love it. I see what it's going to do for our family, our kids, everything. This is phenomenal to me. So, but it's not just about meeting with agents after we close to talk to them about this, but it's also to further that relationship with them, because we'll end up doing more transactions together. And we want to get out and be like, okay, we're done. That was a phenomenal closing, or that was a tough closing, whatever it was. And hey, who are you? Just get to know them. Jeff, you look like you wanted to throw something in there.
Yeah, I love this concept because there's actually a whole bunch of kind of like standard business adages about this. One that I've heard, which is you're either networking or you're not working. And in sales, in any sales business, this is true. If you're not building your network, there's a really strong chance that your business is shrinking instead of growing. So you've always got to be thinking, how am I expanding? How am I expanding? How am I building my database, right? And your database isn't just about names on a list, right? Your database is about relevancy in people's minds, right? We had Ramon Casals a couple years ago come in here, and he asked a great question. Is it more important who you know or what you know? And the answer is neither. It's important who knows you and knows you're in real estate. I mean, that's ultimately, that's why Jim Rohn used to say your network is your net worth, because you're building this base of people who are relational with you, where the question I always love to ask people is, if you were to ask any given person in your town, name 3 real estate agents, go, and they had to go really fast, would your name come out as one of the 3, especially if somebody else asked, not you, right? And if the answer is no, that my name wouldn't come out, awesome. Then you know what you need to go do, because you need to increase that number a lot across your population. You want most people in your town to name you as one of the 3. And so that's a really important thing. And we can always prove it. It's really easy. Name 3 computer brands. Right? Well, Apple, Dell, and I don't know. It's like name 3 soft drinks, Coke, Pepsi, and I don't know. So it starts becoming pretty obvious. Most people have capacity to remember 1, 2, maybe 3 of a thing. You just need to be in the top 3 for at least the people in your cell phone. That's where I'd start.
I love it, because we always talk about always networking, right? You're either networking or you're not working. So I'm going to use that a lot. I'm gonna share this on this one and move on to the next. I put social media tasks on here. I cannot stress enough that your social media could be the biggest time suck, and you just got to be mindful of what you're doing on there, right? Get on there a little bit. Sometimes it's to take that break, but just be very mindful. But there's different tasks that you can do. There's different, I got this from an old coach of mine, so many comments, so many likes, so many shares, so many DMs. That's a way of networking yourself out there and keeping yourself, on the social media platform. But just be very mindful of it. If you get on there and you do these tasks that you have set up that you're doing every day of connecting with people and networking with people, and then you find yourself an hour and a half later scrolling through to see what Jason had for lunch yesterday, I mean, that's not fruitful for us, right? Like, let's make sure that this is a big one to put a time block on. I'm on there from 10:45 to 11, and at 11 o'clock, I'm done, right? Because there's so many other things that we could be doing. So always network, always be network. Financial management and planning. Man, this one was tough, especially since we got to do taxes pretty soon. So I didn't even want to bring this one up. However, financial management and planning is huge throughout your business, okay? You've got to know what you're coming into for 2024. You've got to have the right tools. I put on here different things because to me, these are things that are costs that we have in our business. And there's so many other costs, right? But we need to be mindful of that. I've met so many real estate agents, just business owners in general, that I say, where are you getting your business from? I don't know, but I've got 23 lead sources and it costs me 10 grand a month. Well, we don't want to be that person, right? We want to know where our money's going. We want to know what's going on with it. So, plan out for your taxes too. Make sure you have the right person. I'm no accountant. Don't come to me, right? We'll go to Vegas if you want to, but don't come to me for like taxes, right? So, get the right person involved, what you should be doing, where you should be at in your business, how much you should be putting aside out of each closing, because I've seen a lot of people come in this industry and after the first year, they had a really good year. They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I was going to have to pay this. So financial management planning, make sure you do that. Your vendors, who do you have on there that you're paid monthly to for whatever services they have, and make sure that you are negotiating that with them. Lead sources, that's a big one. That's what I go back to with people who have all these lead sources and they don't know what's coming from what, but they feel like they need them because that's where they're getting their business, but we really don't know, right? So let's be mindful of that. Where's that money going? Are we planning on that? Monthly self-audit, see where you're at, if not more than once a month, but monthly self-audit on what you're doing, what you're spending, where's it going, just check that constantly and make sure that by the time you get to this time of the year, you're set for what we're going to be doing with filing our taxes. Spreadsheets, man, I hate spreadsheets. I don't like to use that word. I dislike spreadsheets a lot. Let's say that. I don't like to make them. That's why we have a VA. Guess what? He's made some spreadsheets for me, and I feel like I've accomplished something because I delegated, right? So get your spreadsheets out. Make sure you have in there what you need for the sources that you're using, anything you need in there for your financial planning, anything that you are spending money on for your business should be in a spreadsheet of some sort. I don't care if you scribble on a paper and that's what's good for you, but then also have that for your personal expenses too, right? Like know where everything is going. QuickBooks. I bring this up because we started using QuickBooks and I love it. I think it's phenomenal. You know, you can get in there and you can see what's going on. I also have an app called Rocket Money, and the thing annoys me because it messages me every time something happens with my account, right? But now I'm like, I feel like I'm aware of what's going on. Oh, another payment just came out, which I can look at the spreadsheet that was set up and say, okay, that's what it was supposed to come out. Financial management planning. This is what top producers do. They do not go into their business just with 10 grand and say, I'm going to throw this at realtor.com. I'm going to throw it over here. They know what they're going to do with their business.
Hey, Jason, you know,
Mhm.
it's there's such a great idea here, which is like what you manage, you can't, or what you don't measure, you can't master, right? That's the idea here that I think everyone needs to take home. And ultimately, by the way, if you didn't watch the session a number of weeks ago, we had Jake on. He did a whole business structure session. That was awesome. So go back inside the communitycenter.com and go check that one out. Jake did a great breakdown on setting up your LLC being taxed as an S corp so that you can differentiate between W-2 and dividend income off your business. If you're not making any money yet, fine, that's not relevant. But for anyone making money on this call, that might start to be important because taxes will always be your number one expense unless you're buying Zillow leads. So, you know, the bottom line is that ultimately what you measure, you can master in your business. But I will also say this. I went to a great, it was actually Business Mastery with Tony Robbins a few years ago. Loved it. And one of the core concepts that came out of there is that accounting is the language of business. And I think a lot of times I'll talk to agents who are like, I hate numbers. I hate dealing with all the, Why? Because most real estate agents get into this business because they love what? Spreadsheets? No, people. They get into this business because they love people, and then they avoid the spreadsheets. The problem is the reason that the business every single year looks like they're starting over is because they haven't gotten good at the language of business. And business has to do with numbers. It has to do with quant, right? This is quantities. We have to understand that if you don't get good at numbers on some level, you're always going to be bad at business. Period. End of story. You may not like that statement, but it's definitely true. And guess what? Yeah, Joe says they get in because they love money. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice to count some of that money, right? So counting happens with numbers. All of this is what we call accounting. And so guess what? This is where you need to start to focus. And there's a really great, right? I'm a band nerd from back in the day. One of the very first people that I really checked out was Wynton Marsalis. He was an incredible trumpet player, and he is like jazz at Lincoln Center in New York City. He's that guy, right? Makes more money than probably any other person in his line of work. What does he say? How did he get to his level? He said, find what you're the worst at and become the best at it. So if you find that you're the worst at accounting, that needs to be your primary focus. I promise you can put more money back in the books overnight by just choosing to have a focus. I used to literally lose sleep over taxes and accounting in our business. This was my number one stress point, and I decided to get laser focused on truly learning this. It has changed our life and our business life a ton because we can speak the language of business now. So I love that you're putting such a focus on this, Jason. It's hugely helpful for people.
Yeah, the reason why, this is something that top producers are doing. And, I always appreciate you jumping in and helping out here, Jeff. But, what I've learned and I've understood is that financial wealth isn't just by what we're making. It's also by managing what we're spending, right? So if you want to make more money next year, you could do the same transactions you did this year, but be better with the money that you're spending on that. Know where your return on investment is, and you can have a better year. So, no, this is something you can delegate off to somebody that you can be meeting with weekly on what's going on with it. If it's something you don't like doing, this stuff gives me a headache. I would rather just have a super big, fat savings account and never have to worry about, what taxes are coming up. But, we have 16 months and 4 days before we get there. So anyways, be mindful about what you're doing with what you're spending. That could actually put more money in your pocket. Let me share my screen again here. Continuing education. I believe, we're getting short on time. There's a couple really big ones I want to get to. Continuing education, we kind of talked about this, but who are we if we're not really truly taking our continuing ed serious, right? I don't know how many years I went in a row, and I'm just going to put myself out there that I would get an email saying, uh-oh, I've got 30 hours to do in 30 days. Now I got to do it, right? Can't do that. Let's time block some continuing education on what's going on out there. That this is a benefit. This goes back to client relations, right? The more we're educated with it, the better. Who wants to spend, 2 weeks trying to catch up on all their continuing ed when we could have done 10 minutes a day and had all of our continuing ed done for the 2 years, right? It's not something that needs, takes a lot. Open coaching, that's part of continuing education. Masterminding, that's part of continuing education. Books. I mean, I just got into reading books. I just moved from ones with pictures to ones with words, so I'm stepping up a little bit. But, I really enjoy reading books now, right? I like getting it, and it just gets me back in that right mindset of what I should be doing. To me, I'm educating myself, not just for me, but for my clients, right? And, we'll get into this just very, very briefly towards the end here, but I also want my kids to see me reading books. That's what's important to me, is they're seeing the things that I'm doing, right? So always educating yourself. It's huge in any business you're going to do. Find time to do that, make it meaningful, and you can always take that to your clients on what's going on, knowing what's happening in the market. So continuing education, something that a lot of top producers are doing. They're making sure that they're up to date on their education, and it's helping their clients. Lead generating. This one was going to be in here. I'm sure everybody knew that. I won't go too long on it because we do have, we got about 14 minutes left, and the last one that's coming up is really big to me. I said 10 items, but there's going to be 11 because I always have to throw a bonus in there. The lead generating goes back to a lot of things. But the main thing with your lead generation, this is what I've poured into so many agents. If you want to stop restarting your business every 90 days, if you want to stop feeling like you're starting all over again, if you've been in real estate for 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, and you feel like you're always restarting your business, you look back and say, am I consistently doing lead generation? Okay. Lead generation is a lot of things. When people, when I've been talking to agents, a lot of people think lead generating is just making calls. That's not it. Okay. Pick something that you love and enjoy doing and make that your lead generation. If you like social media and you will really engage, that's a part of lead generating. Is the conversion, less? Is it lower on that kind of lead generation? It is. But if it's something you enjoy doing, then do it. Cold calling. So I don't mind cold calling. It's okay to me. Every time I get the no, I'm one step closer to the yes. Going back to what this was really about was review, research, and repeat. And lead generating being close to the end was one that I really felt I could hit home on this. It's kind of like I talked about with the open houses. I did not do my open houses right for the first 6.5 years. I've been in real estate almost 9 years, right? Because I would just assume go there, put 3 signs out, and this is what's going to happen, right? It's on the market, it's going to sell. And then I'd find myself sitting there trying to keep myself awake because nobody's showing up, right? And then I got to come home, and then my family asked me, how'd it go? I'm like, well, I took a 20-minute nap, and then I walked around the living room, and I got 1.5 miles in steps, I doing these right, reviewing what top producers are doing, researching it to make sure it's something that you are comfortable with and you want to do, and then repeating that to be able to get that business. So with open houses, 20 signs, videos, sign-in sheets of some sort, CRM, whatever, know what house you're at. I mean, know the square footage, know the taxes, prepare yourself for this. Door knock the neighborhood. These are what top producing agents are doing. They're not showing up just hoping somebody shows up there because they put a sign out front that says that it's an open house. I don't know how many times we've done marketing for open house. Maybe only 3 or 4 people came in, but 2 out of the 3 or 2 out of the 4 said that they came in because they seen a sign that said open house. Yeah, guess what? Maybe they're a looky-loo. Okay, that's fine. But I'll guarantee you something. They probably have a roof over their head, right? So at some point, they're probably going to want to buy or sell a home. So the reason why I'm kind of hitting on this one really hard is because it's not just about making the call. It's, are we making the right call? And I learned this with something that we did a couple years back, to where if I keep calling the same leads that I have and they just keep never answering, am I truly lead generating? Am I looking for business? No, I'm not. I'm just repeating that drum. So get out there, find that business. Open houses, door knocking, listings. I put on here new listings. So it doesn't have to be your listing. You know, if it's a listing that Joanne has and you're in the neighborhood there and you say, hey, Joanne, you got a listing over here. Do you mind if I door knock that? Now, listen, we don't really have to call to ask, but guess what? We're also building the relationship with that person. Most agents are going to say, yeah, go for it. The ones that say no, don't worry about it. Call the next one, but build a relationship with them and then go door knock. But before you go door knock, let's review and research what top producing agents have done when they door knock. They don't just go up and say, hey, I'm Jeff. Here's a flyer. Thank you for answering your door, right? They have a script that they use. Go ahead, Joanne.
When you said about asking permission or whatever, I posted on my Facebook this great horse property that I have listed, and the really smart agents shared that and put at the top, check out this great property, call me if you want to see it. So they didn't even really have to ask my permission at all. They just shared my public post, put their, and so it was great for me because I got a bunch more exposure for my listing, and I liked their posts and I said thank you and all that stuff. So we're just generating more exposure for the listing itself. But these particular agents took it as their own post and prospected to their own sphere that way. And I thought, wow, that was really smart.
I love that you sprinkled that in. Jeff likes to say peppered that in. I share posts all the time. I shared a post from somebody who was in Oklahoma. I think it's smart to do, right? Some people say, why would you share that? Well, you're putting out what's out there on the market, right? I shared a post from an agent in Oklahoma. I had a friend of mine call me that lives in Salem and says, hey, can you tell me more about that property? Well, she's not moving to Oklahoma. She thought it was local because I'm local, but guess what? It turned into a conversation of potentially listing her home because she was looking what's out there. So it generates business. And you know what? Let's help other agents. Let's share that. Let's put that out there. I mean, I look at some of the posts that are done by other agents, and it kind of baffles me that more people in their own brokerage are not sharing that post, right? Like, let's work together, right? This is what we're going to do. We all have the same goal here.
Also, one of the agents, I just wanted to say, she shared it, and then she put on her comment, she said to somebody's name, hey, Susan, surely you know somebody on your side of the family that would love this property. Well, would I ever have access to Susan if I hadn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just expanding the web, and people are specifically tagging people that they think would like the property that I would never know about.
Yeah, and it's phenomenal. And that's another way of doing lead generating. I mean, not to the highest level, but you are putting content out there. You're sharing what's going on in the market. So I love it. I mean, it shows how open-minded we are here, right? I called an agent to ask if I could do a marketing boost on their listing. They didn't happen to be with our brokerage, and it doesn't market it as my listing. It just marketed it as a listing. And the agent said, no, I don't think that would be a good idea. I said, hey, no problem. Unfortunately, it would have been a great idea for their seller, right? For the person that's out there, and it could have generated a buyer. So what I can leave us with this one here is be open-minded to that, right? Anything that we put out there that has our listing on it, or our information, or whatever we're doing, it's a benefit to us, and it can also help that other agent, right? So lead generating is big. At the bottom, I put here, I can keep going, because lead generating is something that if you did nothing else and you never followed up with your clients, you never did marketing, you never did any of the other stuff, but you consistently time blocked in lead generating, you'd be successful. Now, would it be a tough success? Yes, because you always have to generate that business. Let's get to a point to where we're working so great on our follow-up that we're getting the referrals and we're enjoying a little bit more time of our life. So the last one I'm gonna put out here, we got a few minutes left. All of this to me comes back to one thing. It's really big, to me at least, right? And this is, I've read this in many books. I've seen this at different events. I've heard it from people like Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, just a lot of these people of where all of this really starts. And to me, and we've talked about this a lot, it's our mindset. It is your mindset on what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. Meditation, whatever it is you do, affirmations, all of you guys are great. Everybody here is phenomenal. Tell yourself, I'm great. This is what we do. This is who we are. I talked to a friend of mine the other day, and I had to tell him, because I said, Damon, I said, I know we're not who we were before, but I said, man, you need to remember who you are, right? He's going through a tough time. And he said, you know what? I needed to hear that. Remember who you are. remember what you do. Remember why you do it, right? Yeah, sometimes we've struggled. Sometimes it's been hard in this business. Sometimes this has happened. Reset, take a step back, go into the bathroom and cry for 5 minutes, whatever it takes. Get that mind ready, come back out and do what you do, right? Remember who you are. Your surroundings, I've said this 100 times. Who you surround yourself with is important. Make sure that you are surrounded with 5 people that are highly successful and you become the 6th. And then you get to be surrounded by someone who now you're part of that 5 and you're helping them become the 6th. So mindset to me is big, really, really big. And then also understanding your why. I've talked about this 100 times. I'm super excited because my son, who I haven't seen in 5 years because he lives in Canada, we had COVID, we had passport issues, we had shutdowns, he couldn't make it. He's coming in tonight and he's going to be with me for 2 weeks. My kids are my everything. That is why I get up and I go out and I do what I do. Now, I heard this the other day because I'm not trying to leave it for my kids to where they have the easiest life in the world, because I understand that that's not going to make their life easy. It's probably going to bring some difficulties. I'm not trying to leave them a huge financial empire that they're going to have. Yes, that's going to be great. But here's what I heard the other day. I'll leave us with this. And any questions you have, I'd love to hear it. I was listening to some motivational speakers. It was two parents talking. And one of them said to the other, he said, it's not what you leave for your children. It's what you leave in your children that matters. And that hit me hard, because it's not what I leave for them for houses, for financial. It's what I left them inside, that they know how to be a right person, how to pick themselves up when they've gotten down, what they should be doing. They be doing it with the right intentions. I tell my kids this a lot. Doing the right thing is always the right thing. And that's it. So I'll leave us with that. Mindset is huge, and understanding your why. So I really appreciate every time anybody has a question or want to throw something in, I'd love to hear it.
I'll break the silence by saying awesome stuff, Jason, and really, really cool session. These are such great concepts and points for people to be hearing. And some of the stuff that I think was just so right on point as we're also looking forward to our next year, right? To say, what do we do for 2024? I hear a lot of agents saying, I want to make sure that next year is exactly the year that I need to have. And I look around the room here, which is awesome. We've got so many top producers in here. I see John Sellers just unmuted himself. Again, one of our top producers. So let's bring John up here. John, did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I just want to comment. Jace, what I loved, you said all those pieces putting together. And I just want to share that, there's so many things that Jason's talking about. And yet I was watching the other day these folks that have done all this research on what makes people successful. And, they tried to analyze it. Is their education? Is it their looks? Is it their nationality? Is it their height? Is it their weight? Is it their smarts? And what it really came down to through all that with those studies, it was people that had grit. And what grit means is you pick 2 or 3 things. And that's what Jason's talking about. You decide you're going to have a calendar, which if you don't have a schedule every day, if you want to accomplish a lot and you don't have a schedule you live by, you're not going to make it happen in a consistent way. You might get lucky 1 or 2 months, but it's not going to be consistent. Then the other is those folks have picked 1 or 2 or 3 things that they're going to prospect on, and they have grit to stay with those and figure out how they have to do them. Like you said, Jason, open houses. There are people that build huge businesses by doing 4 or 5 open houses a week consistently. Yes, they have some days when they don't have anybody show up, but they're consistent putting out those massive amount of signs. Very few people are going to be successful by trying to do 10 things. Figure out those 2 or 3 things and getting really good at them. And then once you look at your calendar, start really realizing, I said this to myself and I say it to other people, if you looked at your activities daily and how you followed your calendar, would you fire yourself if you were a boss? And if you were your boss, would you fire yourself for how you're actually showing up? And I got to tell you, there's a lot of days I fire myself. The other is, if you have children, I've often had to say to myself, if my children were on my shoulder watching what I did every day, and I have to play these games with myself, I don't know about you guys. Maybe you're all smarter than me and figure it out. But I say, well, if my kids were on my shoulder watching how I showed up every day, would I be proud of myself? Would I be setting the example of how I'm spending my time and what I'm doing to create income and prosperity for my family? And I have to play those little games right there. But I just encourage you guys all, as Jason's brought so much here and I appreciate it. But realize those top producers have calendars and they live with them. And they also start really looking at where they're spending their time. And I often talk about this. Energy is a limited resource. Most of the things Jason's talking about take a great amount of energy. Prospecting takes energy. Are you doing that first thing in the morning? You don't need to be doing it, going to inspections. For the most part, get somebody else to even open the door and go and meet them at the end when they do the review. Don't get them, schedule them in the morning. Don't go to signings in the mornings. If you're going to go to signings, which I don't think you should, but if you're going to, go in the afternoon, because it's easy to do that stuff. It's not easy to do the hard stuff. And that's just, I love everything you said, Jason, is if we come into the year with picking some of those pieces together and really holding ourselves accountable. And the other is when you talk about numbers. Whenever I talk to an agent, I say, how many deals have you done year to date? And they tell me they're not really sure. I can tell you their finances are a mess. I can just tell you their finances are going to be a mess because they're not holding their dollars accountable. So the question is, figure out what your average sales price is, figure out what your goals are based upon your real numbers, and then be tracking what you're doing with deals, because that's going to hold you accountable for the things that you need to accomplish. And now's a great time to do that. You can look back through the year. How many deals did I really do? What was the average gross commission? Okay, based upon that, how many deals do I have to do? And you can break a lot of things down about how many open houses would I have to do? If I did 10 a month, would I get 2 deals? Probably, if you followed up with those people. So thanks again, Jason, for all that you shared. I think it was awesome.
Thank you, John. I always appreciate you jumping in, man.
Well, really good stuff, guys. And like I said, success leaves clues. I think Jason made that point today. And if success leaves clues, check out the caliber of the people who are on this live call. We have so many icon agents on here. It's ridiculous. And so I feel like that success already should be leaving clues for you, which is continue to show up. Show up for stuff. Show up in your business. There's an expression in business that how you show up in one place is how you show up in every place. And that's a reality in life and business. If you're truly present here, for instance, then you're probably truly present with your family or with your clients. And that's going to just start to permeate your whole life and business. Jason shows up as a leader here. And guess what? So he shows up as a leader with his family and in his business. And those things also start to expand. And that's one of the reasons he's so successful. Jason, thanks for giving your time today to be such an amazing leader inside the community and with eXp Realty. You're incredible, man. This is awesome.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. You guys have a great weekend. Happy holidays.
Thanks, Jason.